So this is Jason from Seattle. He says, hey, GI crew, long-time listener, first-time emailer. I was wondering if you have any insight into just what's going on at EA. It seems like they've made some pretty horrible decisions over the last couple of years. They sent Titanfall 2 out to die. They released Mass Effect Andromeda in a clearly unfinished state. They canceled the visceral Star Wars game after 4 or 5 years of development, then closed the entire studio. Need for Speed Payback was a ghost after E3, and then released to poor reviews that note a wonky progression system and intrusive microtransactions. And now this whole loot box fiasco with Battlefront 2. Apart from churning out sports titles, they don't seem to know what it takes to deliver good games anymore. Any insight you all have on what the hell is happening?
Yeah, I've been investigating this a lot, and I tracked down a hire of theirs, someone named Sheev Palpatine, that they brought in, and he really flew up the ranks. Sheev. And then we just lost track of him.
Is that right?
I saw a tweet. He said he's like pronouncing himself emperor, and he wanted all the money, and that's the last I heard of all that.
Reiner, last episode of the podcast, we talked all about Battlefront, and then about an hour after the podcast went live, there was a huge dent that should have gone into that conversation. You and Imran just explain what the hell happened?
Yeah, Imran, you want to go first?
So basically what EA did is they very much reacted to the complaints people were having about the microtransactions and decided to just cut it off at the head by saying, okay, no more there's virtual currency, but you can't buy it anymore. So it has to only be stuff you earn in-game. So the grind is still there, but the actual purchase, like pay-to-win aspect of it is not. They changed that immediately.
It's really wild. Officially, the game came out, even though people were playing it thanks to EA Access and everything.
For a couple weeks, yeah.
Yeah, for a while. How much does that change your perception of the game, Reiner, then?
Not at all. I mean, Imran just hit the nail on the head of the terrible progression system is still there. And now you really have to grind through it. And here's something that people don't really think about is the people that bought in early, got those early access copies, they could have been taking advantage of the microtransactions, getting all the cards, whereas everybody bought it on day one are in that really slow kind of grind to get cards. And there's times where people will play like 20 matches of something and not get a card for the class they like playing. Whereas people, when they were spending real money on it, we're getting all these level 4 cards, which make you super powerful and exploiting the system. Now they have an unfair advantage in an already uneven battlefield, right? So that hurts it. And then they also said the microtransactions are coming back at a later date.
What do you think?
We don't know what they're going to be.
Yeah.
But it seems like, there's reports of Disney calling them and being like, nobody knows what happened, but everybody's thinking that it was stop it. We're trying to launch a movie and, everything Star Wars is negative right now.
Yeah, don't go on Reddit.
So is this just turn it off, wait for the movie to come out, have its run in the box office, turn it on? Literally, is it going to be that evil, or are they going to go back in and actually tweak this stuff and maybe make it more cosmetic? Maybe tone down the star cards.
It's a really weird, unfortunate conversation, too, because that happened. Everyone was like, the gamers won. They triumphed over everyone. That's not what happened. No. Another corporation got mad at a corporation.
And then they put something on hold for a short period of time.
Yeah, for a short period of time. Yeah. There was no triumph.
So the GM of, I can't remember his name. The GM of DICE issued a statement and in like big Star Wars gold font said, this was never our intention.
Right.
Come on, cut the crap. Seriously, this was your intention all along. You worked on this for years, this microtransaction system. You had soft caps on the rewards you would get. So after 20 hours of play, that dried up and people were left with nothing outside of getting a little bit of currency in matches or buying the loot boxes with money. That was your intent.
Right.
Like you really wanted to drive people to those loot boxes.
Of course.
I mean, right there, it's just dishonest. Right? Well, it's like, just come clean.
Yeah.
You can trace it all back to like when Battlefront 1 came out, there was some outrage of a lack of single player, that maps were coming out that people had to pay for. And like EA had to decide then what they were going to do for Battlefront 2. And what they decided was all that stuff will be free. And in order to pay for that, they had to think of a different solution. And this was their solution. And they did not anticipate the way tides would be changing this year, that everyone would hate microtransactions in winter 2017.
Do you think, I don't know, what do you think led to that snowball? Do you think Shadow of War is a big first step of people being like, all right, F you guys, you give us one more good example of this. And then Battlefront 2 comes up, hey, look at this offering. And that's just like, all right, that's it. Slamming this door closed.
I think it's also the visceral news prior to that.
Interesting.
Because it was the pivot where they're like, oh, God, they're moving over to loot boxes. And then it's like, oh, that thing that you guys are worried about, like, here it is in action.
Yeah, it's a perfect storm, I guess.
Yeah, I really feel like that was the turning point, even more than the Shadow of War loot boxes, was we are closing this studio to focus on a games as services model.
Yeah.
And, we got to see firsthand the effects of like what that means when they close Visceral. At least that I think that a lot of gamers for the first time really got like physical proof of like, oh, this is why loot boxes can be bad and why games as services can be bad. So this is just an extension of that.
Yeah.
Into what Imran was saying about, they needed to figure out a way to fund, these maps if people aren't paying for them. Well, then yesterday they issue, or I guess a few days ago for people listening to this now, they issue a statement about their earnings saying that removing the microtransaction isn't going to change their guidance in any way. And then right there, that's ammo for gamers of like, well, you're saying that you're paying for this stuff, yet you're not really saying it's going to affect your earnings in any way. Like, come on. Like, again, you're being dishonest.
Right.
Like 100%. Just lying. Like, come clean. Like,
you wanted
us to buy loot boxes. You thought this would help, drive sales and be able to make more stuff in the future. And then you come out and say, no, this was never our intention. Bull crap.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that. You look like liars. Stop it.
Yeah.
Like, just come clean.
It's just the wildest thing, too, because you and I were talking about this the other day when it's just like, okay, well, if they had just done cosmetics, like, people would be paying ridiculous amounts of money to get those Star Wars costumes.
Yeah, clone troopers, you could do anything with clone armor, right? Yeah. Like, anything. Seriously.
Like, obscure armor from, like, the novels. Just anything.
Get that pink Mandalorian armor in there. Yeah, everything you can
that'd be
imagine.
amazing.
So what can they do? What do you think they're going to do when they turn this back on? Do you expect them to dial down the card system? I think changing it to cosmetic only is just absurd at this point, right?
I mean, they could dial down the card system. They'll anger the people that bought them already. That have an advantage, obviously, but I mean, that's probably the minority, I'm hoping.
Yeah.
Oh, God, I hope it is. Because, I mean, we're part of the problem. Like, we're buying loot boxes and we're funding this stuff and showing that it works. As much as we're yelling about it, obviously they keep going to this well. I don't know. I mean, if they just come back and it's cheaper, people might be like, yay, we did it. And EA might be like, yeah, see, we listened.
Yeah.
That might be good enough, but if they completely retool it and go cosmetics, that's more development time. That's significant resources that they'd have to be making. To really make it for loot boxes, you got to have hundreds of items, right?
Yeah.
I just can't see them doing that. I see them just lowering the price.
Yeah, I feel at the end of the day, it's in their best interest. How they see it is it's going to be a disappointing compromise. Like, there's no way they're just going to go pure cosmetics, even though at this point they've hobbled the game.
Yeah, when do you think it happens?
When does Last
January?
Jedi come out?
December. Mid-December.
Like
14th, 15th?
December 16th.
No. I bet like February.
Yeah,
after
February.
It's had its big run.
Yeah.
And people are not talking about Battlefront anymore. It's got to be February.
Yeah. Hey, people talk about it again, right? Imran, zooming out to EA as a whole, have you been following the Need for Speed Payback changes? Because they've also been tweaking the numbers on that baby, right? Yeah,
they've been trying to make it because, like, both Miller and I had this conversation before about how the progression in that game is a huge grind. It's they want you to redo races over and over in hopes of getting the same thing or the things you need, or you could just pay for it.
Yeah.
And they've been trying to ease that up a little bit, but it doesn't actually solve the problem. It's too late to solve the problem. The game's out. Like, you can't change that core gameplay loop anymore. So they've been changing it so you get more point values for everything you do, and it makes the grind a little bit less. But it's still like the game's not exciting in the long run. And I guess they're trying to react to some degree of consumer outrage, but like I said, it's too late.
Well, what do you think, zooming out to Jason's original question even more then, what is going on at EA? Why them? Why are they the lightning rod? Just because of the Star Wars
them
license?
For some reason. It really does seem like they are the ones that are testing the water first in the biggest way, right?
Yeah.
Like, and the Sims to this, or SimCity to this, and the Sims like.
Oh, I didn't even think about SimCity. Yeah.
I mean, seriously, just stop it. Think of the gamer first. Seriously, think of the gamer first.
Yeah.
Take care of them. Look at Overwatch as being like, hey, we have loot boxes, but it's not going to change the game. We're not going to give you an advantage. That's one way to do it.
Yeah.
Yes, they're a little evil in that they're timed and they make you feel pressure and wanting to get them, but it doesn't ruin the game. That game is balanced.
Yeah. Imran here saying something.
There was an old quote about EA that like they care more about shareholders than they do sales, which is true. They do want to like assuage fear of shareholders, which is part of that EA statement the other day about the microtransactions. That's kind of what's been driving them the last couple of years, and their like reformation from like 2008, 2009, when they're trying to do focus less on what consumers think and more what they're actually spending. And that's what they've been doing. Once they made that Star Wars deal, which no one really knows the details of, but at this point it's pretty clear it wasn't a good deal for them. They've been transitioning to a Star Wars company, and they've been doing a terrible job at that specifically.
Yeah.
Like, no Star Wars video game news this year has been good.
Hang on. Let's think about it.
Yeah. And I mean, what do you think the first question is from most journalists about Anthem?
Oh, exactly.
It's going to be about microtransactions, right? Like, what are you doing? Hopefully, if they were doing the same evil thing with that game, hopefully there's time hopefully there's time they can redirect that shit and not have it look like some weird thing was patched or something, right?
Yeah, I really hope, because that game was being built in a aggressively way. And that was a big concern I saw in the comments a lot talking about Battlefront 2 is just, oh my god, Anthem on the horizon. What is this going to be like?
Good Lord.
But then it's also the company that in theory next year is, by all indications, releasing A Way Out. A weird co-op escape prison game. Like, it's such a weird dichotomy for that company that game's also being published by them.
That's part of their indie initiative, though, right?
But it's not that big. It's like, what, Faye? And that?
And what was the last one they did with Yarny?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Unravel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of like what other games have been under that initiative. Like if that's the first serious one.
Right.
It
Not
to shit on platformers, but
no.
Like the first one that's like, oh, this might have like mainstream appeal.
Yeah, it could be. It's just an odd place. Thank you so much for watching this excerpt from the Game Informer Show podcast. You can subscribe to the audio version and listen to new episodes airing every Thursday. We cover big games on the horizon, games that we've just reviewed. We have long-form developer interviews, a lot of fun stuff. So check it out every Thursday.